Did you see with your eyes, or hear with your ears, or personally witness me conspire with my brother, Alex Cox, to murder my husband, Charles Vallow?
No.
Thank you. No more questions.
The cult mom conspiracy trial resumes today. Lori Daybell facing off against family last week. We're awaiting word from the prosecution on who they plan to call today. And new body language clues from the cult mom. Are things going according to plan? We've got an expert joining us live to break it all down. Plus, a judge is allowing the Menendez brothers to continue their bid for freedom, but that doesn't mean that these murderers will walk. Our panel weighs in on what the latest ruling really means. Also this hour, a battered wife comes face to face with a husband who allegedly tried to push her off a cliff. We've got brand new images from that case in Maui. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? We got a great show planned for you, so let's get it started. Grab that cup of coffee or tea, whatever you like in the morning. It's time for my opening statement. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Ralph Waldo Emerson said those famous words, and they are perfect when we think about survivors of domestic violence. This morning, the survivor on my mind is Arielle Konig. She's the wife of Hawaii doctor Gerhardt Konig. Police say Arielle survived an attack that was so brutal it could have killed her 3 different ways. Police say that Arielle was nearly pushed off a cliff, nearly injected with a substance, and badly beaten with a rock. Miraculously, Arielle Konig is alive to tell about it. The courage and the bravery that she showed on March 24th deserves to be commended. She literally fought for her life, and thank goodness that she did. She's going to go on to hopefully live a wonderful, beautiful, blessed life. Hopefully a life that is free of any more violence. Her husband, on the other hand, the alleged batterer in this case, likely won't have a very nice life ahead of him. If he did what police say he did, then off to prison he should go. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. This morning, we're going to be listening to the Konig's exchanges with the judge coming up later this hour. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
When I walked into the bathroom, I noticed in the tub a pale, naked female body laying in there. Next to her was what appeared to be a human internal organ, now laying outside her body next to her in the tub. Her hands were also covered with what appeared to be dry blood.
In Connecticut, we've got testimony resuming this morning in the murder trial of Jose Morales. This guy's accused of murdering his girlfriend, Christine Holloway. The two of them shared a 1-year-old daughter who has been missing ever since her mother's death. Court's going to start up at 10 a.m. Eastern time. In Kentucky, we've got Stephen Lawson. He's got a motions hearing this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. He's charged with conspiracy to commit murder in connection with the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. And in Arizona, we've got cult mom Lori Daybell and her trial resuming at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And that is our top story for you this morning. We're now officially in week number 2 of cult mom acting as her own lawyer. So during her first week representing herself, she really shook up the courtroom with some fiery exchanges.
So you spent your whole date getting to know each other, talking about me.
Don't flatter yourself. No, we did not spend the whole time talking about you.
And then you had no contact with Charles after that, correct?
Well, he was dead, so clearly I didn't have contact with him.
What did you tell them about me in those interviews?
Objection.
Do you feel like you have something to offer here today in relation to the crime that I'm charged with?
Objection relevance.
Did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with Alex Cox to kill my husband, Charles Vallow?
No, but I saw a ton of evidence that did.
So can we expect the same counselor cult mom this week, or is she going to make some adjustments? Let's bring in our legal eagles and talk about it. So happy to have on the show this morning attorney Tommy Pope and attorney Mario Gallucci. Good morning to you both. All right, Tommy, let me begin with you, please. Cult mom, do you think there's going to be any self-reflection on her lawyering and any tweaks made before round 2?
Julie, I'll tell you what, we talked about leading up to it, and my experience with pro se defendants, I think she's done a decent job. I think she has her point. She knows what she's trying to make when she wrapped up like her brother, or, unfortunately she let I guess that was the sister and her sister-in-law run on a little bit with that answer at the end. But I think her questioning's on point. The weakness and where she could have used an attorney are really covering the objections and the ability to, there's a subtlety with your years of training as an attorney that you don't always run right in there to get the answers. You can work them a little slower. And but I think substance-wise and even really decorum-wise, she doesn't. It seems not malicious as far as her questioning. She's trying to get to her points and make good points. She may end up being a jailhouse lawyer one day, the way she's going.
I know, Tommy. You know what? She is not stupid. I tell you what, cult mom is intelligent. And I was saying last week, if she had gone another direction with her life and actually gone to law school and had proper training and studying in the field of law, she could have perhaps done okay in the legal profession.
I think so.
She's never going to be a Tommy Pope, but she should be so-so somewhere. What were you going to say, my friend? Tell me.
I said if she could just use her superpower for good.
Right.
Exactly.
Instead, she's portaling places, Tommy. I know. Her and Mr. Doomsday. Yikes. Let me show you a couple clips. We'll kind of look back at the week together, Tommy, and you can kind of grade her on her performance. So let's look at, this is a point where she's trying to make an objection here. She's trying hard and trying to get it right. Let's watch how it plays out.
Have you ever met Lori Daybell?
No.
Again, just sort of yes or no. Did Charles talk to you about
Your Honor.
why?
Objection. Leading. Objection.
I haven't heard the question yet. Go ahead.
So just yes or no. Did Charles talk to you about why he
Leading
was
is yes or no.
No, leading is a question that suggests the answer, so she can answer yes or no.
So again, just yes or no. Did Charles talk to you about why he was separated from his wife?
Yes.
Oh, okay, Tommy, she tried there. Your thoughts on that, please.
I think she discovered, maybe she talked with her, the counsel that's overseeing her, and she discovered, leading's a good kind of general objection. I'll give the prosecutor credit. Sometimes when you've got a pro se, if you're not careful, you can get lazy and you start leading and start doing the things because they're not going to object, and it can kind of take you down a hole, particularly from an appellate level. So I think the prosecutors did a good job of holding it tight, but leading may be a proper objection, but like I said, it's like she learned it, but she used it at the wrong time. But, when we were young prosecutors, you knew all the rules, and you'd get in the courtroom, and you'd go from being scared, and so you wouldn't object at all, to I'm going to show them, so you'd object too much. And so, with the experience and understanding comes the picking your battles, because sometimes when you object to leading like she did there, it really draws more attention to what may be really an innocent, non-meaning question, but suddenly, if one side's trying to keep it out, I think it pricks the jurors' ears up.
Tommy, that's such an excellent point. Multiple excellent points. But as you said, back to the prosecutor's work, you're right. It keeps you on your toes when you have this kind of defendant and doing things properly. And to your point too, in the courtroom, when to pull back, when to push ahead. Sometimes it depends on the judges too. You kind of get to know your judge, right? If they're gonna be someone who's gonna give the other side a lot of latitude or not. I've got another clip for you, Tommy. Let's take a look at Cult Mom doing a cross-examination with a certain law enforcement officer. I got a kick out of this moment.
Do you know for a fact that CPR had not been given?
I do not know for a fact.
And do you know for a fact that CPR had been given? So you stated earlier that the type of weapon that was found was a .45 caliber?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a semi-automatic?
It is.
Okay. How is that different from like a revolver? What's the difference between that?
Tommy Pope, how's a semi-automatic different from a revolver? You're a gun guy. That was one of my favorite moments. What'd you think of that, please?
Well, you know, if it was heading somewhere, because I used to laugh. My son just graduated law school now, and I'm always giving him my stories whether he wants them or not. And I said, you know, I was would do the Columbo thing, you know, where I would act like I was trying to understand. And, you know, so in certain circumstances, if there was a reason, you know, because you were talking about a casing ejecting or why you didn't find casings, if it was a revolver or something, you know, it could be a legitimate question. But I think she's asking, but she's really not sure where she's going. I think there was anything, you know, this is her story. You know, I always told my victims, you know, it's my job, but you're living it. And so she's got so much she wants to prove, but she falls into kind of the coffee table argument, or the, you know, you're over at the house for dinner, you know, and we're all standing around the kitchen, that kind of argument a little bit instead of her legal argument. So, you know, unless there's a point at the end of the day, whether it was one or another, why are you asking the question? Sometimes we ask too many questions, and I know I'm guilty of it, because it just gets good to you. You know, you feel like you're on a roll kind of, and so you're going to hit them, and, you know, everybody else in the courtroom may be going, why didn't she sit down? But, you know, you're up there, you feel like you're doing great. And so maybe that's what's happened. But again, I'll go back and give her credit. What we thought we were going to see and what we're seeing, she has been very prepared, but just not prepared as an attorney.
Beautifully said, Tommy. Well, that is perfect. Very prepared, but not prepared as an attorney. So true. Tommy Pope, I'm so glad we have you on the program here. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit our first break. You're going to stand by for more questions, and we're not done talking about Cult Mom either. But coming up next, here's what we've got.
Can you answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, was you telling Lyle what?
My dad had been molesting me. There was no reason to lie. Clearly, he was coming to me, wanted me to do something about it.
The Menendez brothers are potentially one step closer to freedom as the resentencing hearing is now moving forward. Plus, the wife of the Hawaii doctor who allegedly tried to kill her is in court for the very first time. Talk about the face of bravery. We'll discuss the case of Arielle Konig.
Lori Daybell.
Already convicted for the murders of her children.
Doomsday Cult Mom is now lawyer Lori.
She's representing herself.
On charges of conspiring to murder her fourth husband.
She said, I can murder you now.
She really thinks she's equipped to try this case.
She appears very sure of herself.
I have real trial experience.
It's going to be a strange trial. We'll see how it plays out.
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but today is a good day. Justice won over politics. It's been a long time coming.
That was attorney Mark Garagos. You recognize him, right? He's one of the attorneys representing Eric and Lau Menendez, and there he was addressing the media after the defense got a very favorable ruling by a judge on Friday. Their resentencing bid is what's trending in true crime. So Friday, the judge decided that the convicted killers can continue this quest for resentencing. This is despite opposition from the new LA County District Attorney. So DA Nathan Hochman had requested to withdraw the petition for resentencing that was filed by his predecessor, George Gascon, and the court denied that request, saying, no, the resentencing petition stays with the court. So what's this mean? Well, it means the brothers are going to return to court this Thursday and have that hearing they've been wanting. Doesn't mean they're getting out, just means they're going to have the hearing. Eric and Lau Menendez's cousin spoke out as well to the media afterwards, saying it's time for the brothers to come home.
Their work isn't performative. It's purposeful. It's real. We look forward to a full, fair presentation of who Eric and Lyle are today not just a version frozen in time, in a time of pain and fear, but the whole truth.
All right, so should we be reading anything into this decision? If you saw all the headlines over the weekend, you would think the brothers are going to go free tomorrow. That has not been decided yet. So let's read the tea leaves a bit. Let's bring in our power panel to do that this morning. Still with me, attorney Tommy Pope, and want to welcome in retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffendaffer and attorney Mario Gallucci. Good morning to you all. Jen, can I start with you, please? What do you think about the court's decision to not allow the DA to withdraw that petition and allow things to keep on moving?
Well, I think essentially this judge is saying, listen, this was petitioned before the court and we're going to move forward with it just because there was a change in DA. I don't think he wants to look like this is political in any way. And he's going to make both sides present their arguments fairly before he makes a decision. So it does make some sense.
Right, Jen. Good move by the judge. I agree. Mario, let me go to you next, please. The defense seems very encouraged. Do you think we should read anything into this?
Well, Gerhardt is, he's a great attorney, and he just won, the right to go forward, which is good. He's going to move forward, and he's going to put together all of the evidence, what they've been doing over the last 30 years in jail, which is compelling. But the district attorney is arguing that, although they did great things while in jail, they still haven't admitted to what they actually did, and that they're actually still lying. So, it's going to be interesting. The hearing is going to be interesting. Two completely different sides.
Right. And Mario, thank you for hitting on something so key. I was on the radio. I do radio every Monday morning with my friends back in Pittsburgh. And they said that what I was sharing was something that they didn't think is very well known. It's exactly what you said about how the Menendez brothers haven't accepted full responsibility for this. And that is a big sticking point for DA Nathan Hochman. He said previously, look, if you would just drop this act about this being a self-defense killing, which we know based on all the evidence it was not, then perhaps we can consider allowing resentencing for you and perhaps even supporting it. But up until then, no. Tommy Pope, you were a great prosecutor when you served. Tell me, do you think Nathan Hochman's got the right idea here, saying until you accept responsibility for your crimes, we shouldn't be affording you any legal leniency?
I think that is right from the prosecution side. As far as the hearing itself, I think, the prosecution, his predecessor, there was a lot of things I inherited from my predecessor when I defeat the incumbent that you just had to deal with. And so the fact that I don't think it was wrong for him to try to withdraw it, but I think, as the other guests have shared, it's before the court. And, you and I talked about this a while back. I think what aggravates me sometimes is how it's media driven from the standpoint, would we be having this same discussion if they weren't the documentaries or docudramas or whatever the heck they are? But so I think the court has the right to have it. I think the prosecution will bring these points in. But as the other folks said, in the hearing, I think there's a venue for these arguments that they hadn't accepted responsibility. Of course, the defense can argue all the good things they've done. But I think that core issue, I think the court could hear it sua sponte, which, for your jurors means the court could have decided to do this, for whatever reason. So I think the hearing is going to go forward, and I think we'll hear the valid points. So I wouldn't be overly concerned, because truthfully, once you make the conviction, the prosecution really doesn't have the case in their hands anymore. It's either the courts or corrections or whatever. So I think it's proceeding on course, and the real questions will be what we hear in the courtroom.
Yes, Tommy, such excellent points, and about media driving things. Thank you for saying that. I was saying on the radio too, and I'll say it here now. The documentary and the series, very entertaining, well done, enjoyed them both. They didn't have everything in them. They weren't focused on the fabricating of evidence, the lying, the changing of the stories about this alleged sexual abuse. They were trying to put up one of Lau's girlfriends to say that she was raped by the father. That was one of the earliest stories. It's changed so many times. They've perjured themselves, encouraged others to commit perjury. It's really, really bad what they've done in terms of lying and frauds perpetrated on the court. But that wasn't the big focus, now was it? So a lot of people don't think about that. Let's talk about some other drama that came up on the heels of this hearing the other day. So Eric and Lau Menendez's aunt is apparently facing a health setback. According to TMZ, Terry Gerhardt, who can be seen here if you zoom in, after Friday's hearing, she was found unresponsive in her hotel on Sunday night. In a statement released by the family, they said despite battling colon cancer, Gerhardt has been in full support of Eric and Lyle, saying in part, quote, no physical pain has ever kept her from being there for her nephews, but the display put on by the DA's office pushed her past the brink. By early this morning, she was rushed to the hospital and remains in critical condition. The family is blaming a courtroom display during the hearing for Gerhardt's health scare. They're claiming that a photo of the bloody crime scene presented by prosecutors during the hearing is possibly what sparked it. Okay, so here's our question we're asking. Is the DA's office responsible for the aunt's health crisis here? I'm going to go in reverse order this time. Tommy Pope, let me begin with you, please.
You know, I know I'm an old DA, but I mean, absolutely not. This is a adjunct to me of the drama. In respect for her health, you want her to be nothing but healthy. But, you know, court is traumatizing. So we're now going to not have evidence because it might upset somebody. You know, I mean, the nature of this crime is out there. And it's graphic. We forget that sometimes. You know, I had a guy that killed his parents with a knife and a baseball bat, and it's graphic stuff. And so tying it to the prosecution is just, I think, to add to the drama. I saw it was some kind of support coalition for the Menendez brothers. You know, the neat thing about social media now, I don't have to base it in truth anymore. I can just pop it out there and the crowd will take and run with it. And I think that's what they're trying to do here.
I'm so with you, Tommy. Mario, to you next, please.
So I agree with Tommy. I mean, I've defended many cases. I also defended a young man who slaughtered both of his parents. You seem to forget that this was a brutal murder done with shotguns. And, you know, there's no apologies from a prosecutor. I mean, it's a court hearing. You have to put your best foot forward as a prosecutor. You have to put the evidence before a judge that you think is going to win your side of the argument. And you're not considering, you know, the people in the audience and their health. I mean, the woman has colon cancer. She travels back and forth to California to go to these hearings. So it's stressful for her, and, you know, kudos to her for doing that, but it's certainly not the prosecution's fault. And Geragos ran with this, you know, as only Geragos can. He ran with it. He wants to file motions against them for breaking, the ethical obligation of a prosecutor. It's all nonsense. He's just playing to the media.
You're so right, Mario. Thank you so much for that. Jen Coffinduffer, last but not least on this point, what's your thoughts on this?
Absolutely concur with your guests. I mean, at the end of the day, people seem to forget the heinousness of this murder. They literally blew off the heads of their parents. This was vicious and violent, and it's been well known. These aren't the first time they have seen these photos. She's 85 years old. She has colon cancer. There's no nexus between these photos and her health.
Jen, beautifully said. There's no nexus there. There's no nexus there, you know, and perhaps everyone needs a stark reminder, as you said, Jen, of what this case is about. You're right, because the brutality of it is what's being overlooked. These two killers are being glamorized. They've got, you know, infamy now, and people aren't thinking about how bad this was and what a cold-blooded killing this was. We're thinking about Jose and Kitty Menendez and the lives that were taken way too soon. I'm so happy all of you are sticking around. Tommy, Mario, Jen, stand by, please. When we come back, we're showing you the face of bravery. Arielle Konig facing her husband for the first time in court after police say he tried to kill her by pushing her off a cliff in Hawaii. And Counselor Kaltmom back in court for week 2. Our body language expert weighs in about how Lori's lawyering is going. Welcome back. This morning, we're getting the first look at the face of Bravery, the face of the wife of the Hawaii doctor who's accused of trying to murder her, allegedly by trying to push her off of a popular hiking trail. Arielle Konig faced her husband, Dr. Gerhardt Konig, for the first time since he allegedly tried to murder her. Arielle appeared in court on Friday to request an extension of a temporary restraining order. Dr. Gerhardt Konig appeared via Zoom. Now, if you take a look, there's Arielle right there. She's wearing a headscarf to the hearing. We know that her head was injured, allegedly by being beaten by a rock, and you can see that cut right above her right eyebrow. The judge granted her request to extend that restraining order.
Ma'am, do you recall on your petition on page 8, there was a line for you to sign your name. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And where you signed, you were indicating the information you provided was true and correct to the best of your knowledge. Is that still the case this morning?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Mr. Konig, I'm going to ask if you had an opportunity to review the petition.
Yes.
At this time, sir, I must ask if you are willing to agree to a no contact order. If you agree, we will not hold a hearing this morning. The court will simply read into the record any orders that will be put in place.
And we'll be asking for continuance in this matter.
The current temporary order filed on March 27th will remain in full effect with all terms remaining in full force and effect. Any questions from the petitioner? Okay. Any questions, Mr. Konig?
No, ma'am.
So the next hearing for that restraining order is going to be on May 23rd. Dr. Gerhardt Konig, currently in jail without any bond. He's facing charges of attempted murder. And as part of that order, if he should be given a bond, he can't go anywhere near his wife or their 2 small children. Let's talk about this case. I want to bring back in Jennifer Coffin-Daffer, Mario Gallucci, and Tommy Pope. Jen, let me begin with you, please. Your thoughts on the bravery that this woman showed, not just on the cliff that day, but also going into the courtroom late last week.
You know, Julie, I don't know how many people know these particular details. I mean, to me, this was so premeditated. Asking her to take a selfie at the edge of the cliff, her denying it, then him striking her not once, not twice, 10 times, Julie, with a rock, forcing her face into the ground, trying to inject her with a needle, and she fought valiantly. He then ran away, fled, a manhunt pursued. Julie, this was absolutely horrible. And the fact she survived this is really astounding.
It really is. I can't commend her enough. I mean, to have not given up through all of those attempts, as Jen, you laid it out, the pushing, the beating, the attempt to inject her with God knows what. We still don't know what the substance was that he brought with him in those syringes, according to police. What a valiant effort she put forth, and thank goodness she did. Those boys still have their mama at home. Mario, let me go to you next, please. Your thoughts as you look at this woman, and you know the legal road that's ahead is a rough one.
Well, I mean, she's already demonstrated that she's a warrior. I mean, she survived a brutal beating. I mean, this man literally beat her with a rock, tried to inject her, throw her off a cliff, and she fought back, and she's strong. We just saw her in court. She sat right there. She was stoic. She answered the questions. And it's a long way. I mean, a trial is probably at least a year away. And she's good. She's a warrior. This is a woman that is going to battle for herself and for those 2 small children. It's just quite upsetting that this guy would go to such lengths to take care of his wife instead of just going to a court and asking for a divorce. It just doesn't make any sense to me why you would want to kill your wife, the mother of your children, instead of just easily going to court and asking for a divorce.
Mario,
Much
that's a
simpler
great question.
method.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there. Please, Mario, what was that last part you said?
No, it would have been a much simpler process.
Yes.
Much easier.
You're so right. How could someone who's so smart allegedly be so stupid to think he could get away with something if he did what police and the witnesses say that he did? Tommy, let's talk about that. You know, being a prosecutor for so many years, and you were a SLED agent as well, I'm sure nothing surprises you how sometimes defendants don't look like the monsters we see in the movies, do they?
I know, Julia, they don't, and I think I was thinking while we were talking, kind of dovetailing on what Mario was saying is, you know, he's smart enough. It's normally selfishness. You don't want to go to the divorce because you don't want to give up half of whatever you have or whatever. But, you know, I think it'll be interesting at trial time to see what precipitated this. So if our relationship has deteriorated to the point that you're carrying a needle, you're planning on pushing me off a cliff, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what occurred prior to this that led up to this. You know, I don't know if there were prior restraining orders. I can't imagine you go from restraining orders to going out in the middle of the wilderness, you know, with somebody that could potentially take your life. But no, you know, oftentimes leading back to what you asked, how many times do you see the neighbors go, he was a nice neighbor over the fence. I didn't know he had a, you know, secret room in his basement or whatever. So, well, you know, we truly don't know people till we, you know, see their actions come out in a situation like this.
Isn't that the truth, Tommy? You're right. Jen Coffenduffer, back to you, please. How about those two witnesses? What a godsend those ladies were, right, on the trail. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, back to the doctor, he didn't do enough recon of this trail that is very well traveled, and thank goodness they were there. It was so fortuitous, but it was also likely predictable because people hike this trail. So he did a bad job in his recon. But secondarily, you know, without them, would she have survived? I mean, it's just a godsend they were there.
It really is, Jen. When you think about that, had they not yelled out, and for anybody unfamiliar, you know, they said things like, we see you, we see what you're doing, we're calling 911. Essentially, they told police, they called that guy out. They didn't know who he was or what was going on, but they saw the attack and intervened to stop it. Mario, you called Arielle Konig a warrior. Love that. She really is. What a fight already. How about the fight ahead, especially because we're likely going to need her testimony in the courtroom? Your thoughts on that, please.
So, you know, she's a mother and she's a wife, and her husband just tried to eliminate her from being a wife and a mother. So that is an immense amount of pressure on her now to continue to be a good mother and to focus on what she needs to do to go forward. And to go forward, she needs to make sure that she has her day in court, not only for herself, but for her children. I mean, if this man was willing to wander her into the woods with a needle to try to kill her, what is he capable of doing? And it's like Tommy said, you don't know the neighbor next door. You know, for all intents and purposes, this guy was a brilliant doctor doing his job. He had a lovely family, and lo and behold, he's wandering off into the woods trying to eliminate his wife. So she needs to stay strong for herself and for her children.
So true. Mario, thank you. Tommy Pope, last word on this, please. What would be your best advice if Arielle Konig came to you as a victim on one of your cases in the prosecutor's office? What would you say to her at this point in time?
I was actually, Julie, reading her face then and thinking about it, you know, because for us, you know, we talk about this all the time. Unless you're a victim, unless you're involved in the trial, it's all kind of superficial, and it's all kind of interesting, and it's all kind of theater. Watching her face, you know, she's got to wonder through the course of her marriage, how did it get to this? But I think that courage and, quite frankly, anger, you know, that luckily she'd been saved by the people that were there and her resisting. I think she'll be around. I think she's got find friends to confide in or, counselor or whatever to kind of let go of some of it. But I think that's the face of resolve. And I think she'll be there, and I think she'll see this thing through. Again, for your viewers, I think it'll be interesting to hear the backstory of what led to that day, what changed in the relationship. But I anticipate her testifying strongly and being solid, and them having a hard time of tripping her up.
I think your prediction's exactly right. Tommy, thank you for that. Boy, thank you all for such a great discussion. Tommy, we're going to see you at 9 a.m. Jen and Mario, thank you both for your insight and your expertise this morning. We'll see you both on another day here very soon. When we come back, we're talking about cult mom Lori Daybell facing family members this past week. How will the family dynamics tip the scales of justice in her case? Our body language expert joins us live next.
Wednesday cult mom is now lawyer Lori.
She's representing herself.
On charges of conspiring to murder her fourth husband.
She said, I can murder you now.
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV. This week.
Lori Daybell representing herself. What to expect and what to look for each day in the Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Oh, let's talk about what's tipping the scales now. A bit of a family reunion we're seeing at the murder conspiracy trial for cult mom Lori Daybell. She's going face to face with relatives that are testifying against her. Her brother, Adam Cox, took the stand on Thursday, telling the jury he had no doubt his siblings, Alex and Lori, conspired to kill Charles Vallow. And then Lori got her turn on cross.
Did you see with your eyes, or hear with your ears, or personally witness me conspire with my brother, Alex Cox, to murder my husband, Charles Vallow?
No.
Thank you. No more questions.
So let's talk about how the family dynamics are going to tip the scales of justice when it comes to this jury. And wonder how Lori thinks she's doing as her own lawyer. Who better than body language expert Rodney Smith to help us talk about it all. Rodney, welcome back on the program. Great to have you here. Let's start, if we can, with the clip we saw about her and her brother Adam Cox and the dynamic at play there. Anything you picked up on with Lori in that one?
Yes. Initially, as she's talking to him, she's trying to break down these elements of, did you see? Did you physically do this? Did you physically hear me say that? And two things that I noticed that really raised my awareness was, number one, he is actually sitting there and he is holding his hands together. And I can't remember if it was his thumbs or his index fingers, but he's doing this adapting, which is a self-soothing gesture to help calm oneself. Whenever we feel ourselves in stressful or tenseful situations, oftentimes we'll rub ourselves. It's to the level of comfort that we will bring awareness to ourselves that says, I'm here for you, calm down, you've got this. Also, I noticed that the lips actually were pulled inward, and typically as opposed to an outward expression as though we were giving someone a kiss, when the lips are pulled inward, that is a true indicative sign in some aspects that it can be anger, but as well as also holding some type of emotion internally inside, hence the term or the phraseology, as some people will bite their tongue to keep from saying or reacting in a way that they don't want to visibly show outwardly. And so we see that here as he is actually doing two of those emotions.
Rodney, thank you for that. I want you to look at another clip for us, please. This is where Lori is cross-examining Kay Woodcock, who's Charles's sister.
And you weren't really aware of the events that happened that morning, were you?
The morning of the murder?
Of July 11th?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Because you didn't tell me.
Miss Woodcock, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with Alex Cox to kill my husband, Charles Vallow?
No, but I saw a ton of evidence that did.
Thank you. No further questions.
Oh, okay. So, Rodney, drawing your attention to Cult Mom, the defendant and the lawyer here going pro se. I know we can't see her face. How we wish we could. It's just where our camera has to be positioned per court order. What did you pick up on with the tone of her voice and what she said in those questions?
So what it is, she's trying to drill or narrow down and get specifics. Regardless of what you may think you know, she's asking in the terminology of, did you actually see me do this? Did you actually hear me do this? Do you have any hard physical evidence? As she's actually talking, from time to time as we talk, we'll give these head nods and gestures and eyebrow raises to try to hopefully get that reciprocation from an individual that I'm trying to convince you, you didn't actually see me do this, did you? And the shaking of the head, no, to get that affirmation and also to almost influence or persuade others to believe you in that same term. While we cannot see her direct facial expressions and her facial movements, the body language does suggest that as she is questioning her, she is shaking her head no, and she is nodding her head as to give those suggestions, if you will, that you don't really have evidence. You didn't really hear me say this. You didn't really see me do this, did you? And if I may, what I did actually notice on the sister on the stand, I was very fortunate to see this clip ahead of time where she was actually able to take a drink of water at the onset, and she gives the indication of, oh boy, as to, I'm about to endure a stressful situation here. And even as she's talking and providing the answers, she initially starts off this testimony with her hands clasped, which is indicating of a barrier that blocks her and Lori Daybell here in this circumstance. But even as she starts talking, when I believe that's her, what would be her right hand, she actually starts shaking her leg just before she starts to answer, which is also a self-soothing adapter, which could also be adrenaline-based because of this fight or flight situation that she's in, because this is one heck of a confrontation.
It sure is, Rodney. You're right. Kay Woodcock has been so strong. We admire her strength so much. I have one last clip I want to play for you now. This is where Lori is cross-examining a woman that Charles was just starting to get to know. You know, this is many, many months after he filed for divorce from Lori, and Lori wants to know if they were talking about her. Let's take a listen.
Do you go on dates with married men? Naturally?
Argumentative.
So you spent your whole date getting to know each other, talking about me.
Don't flatter yourself. No, we did not spend the whole time talking about you. He was under the impression you were having an affair, so him moving on was a natural effect from that.
He told you that?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. Rodney, what did you think of Cult Mom? She tries to sound unbothered, but I would have to think she was bothered by that answer.
Absolutely. I even noticed that the prosecution has had to give objections at times and ask for the judge to sustain these snide remarks and after comments. One of the things that I noted here was that she's trying to bring attention of the fact that you guys were talking about me. She was making herself the center of their conversation at dinner. However, in return, she receives this information or the statement, don't flatter yourself. And as she mentions don't flatter herself, she kind of raises her head back and gives a slight of a chin jut as to express defiance as well as pride that this is not about you.
Rodney Smith, a brilliant analysis from you as always. Thank you for everything this morning. Would love to have you back whenever your schedule permits. And that is all for this episode of Opening Statements, friends. You can watch it again, share it with your friends. Go to courttv.com to do that. Click on the Shows tab.